Okay, hi, this is the final video in the Ritten House series of going through and working on this, and this is going to be basically completely rebuilding it. It will not be identical to this, just in terms of speed. I won't be adding this sort of randomization of round the edge logs. I will add a bit of randomization to the length, but I won't be adding this in. I'll show you, in fact I think I've already shown you how to do it in one of the other videos, but they're going to end up sort of that sort of shape and that sort of shape, these sort of things here. I won't be putting the kinks in, but that's as easily done. Well, I might put one kink in to show you how to do it, but then the rest is just from that. Now before we start, what I will say is I would strongly advise not doing this tutorial just once. Well, it's not a tutorial, it's a walkthrough, but if you're going to build this, don't just build it once. In fact, any asset you build, especially when you're learning, certainly don't build it once. The reason I say that is building it once doesn't achieve anything. It just means you've copied something. You may not necessarily have taken much away from it. And if you build it 3 or 4 times, then the process you've gone through in building it starts to sort of sink in and becomes like a mental muscle memory. So you sort of build it once, you're following along. Second time you build it, you should build it quicker, even if you're following along again to a video, not necessarily this one, just a video. Third time, try and build it just using the reference and dipping into the video when you get stuck, or if you get stuck. Fourth time, build it, but say instead of taking pieces from the original mesh, which I'll start with this, excuse me, purple, build from scratch using the sort of shapes off the mesh as a guide. Once you've done that, build something which is similar but different. So it may have windows on other sides, the paneling may be different. You might decide to put a gable here, so it's sort of like a porch, but just using the techniques you've learned, and that will teach you far more about modelling than just copying along a video and then moving on to the next video. You're not really going to achieve much modelling skills that way, as with anything in life, be it 3D, be it music, be it any sort of hobby. Repetition is key, because then you think, oh, press this key, press that key, press O, press A, shift, move, shift G, all of these things, they just sort of happen. And you don't think about them as much, which means you can focus more on what you're wanting to build. I mean, it's the same with the roof. You know, initially I'll be taking polygons off this, and then you could say just build. Well, if I just show you, say let's just throw in a plane. Just move it along the y-axis, move it up. Speaking of just muscle memory. I'll turn the keys on at the moment. I'm just sort of getting this roughly right, and I'll scale it on the Y a bit like that. And I don't know, RX 30 maybe, minus, something like that. Alright, I'll apply my scale because you always do. So. And then you can just set those to triangles, go to points. I'm just going to randomize them a bit to make it a bit wonky. So you know, like there will be a roof panel that's just built from scratch, which isn't copied off the original. So that sort of thing. you know, and develop your skills from there. Okay. As I say, this is going to be a walkthrough. I'm not going to do any time lapsing. I'm not going to stop it and then suddenly magically reappear with something finished. This is just literally going to be me plodding on, building this from scratch and waffling on in the process. So get yourself a brew or whatever, a cup of coffee, whatever is your favourite beverage, and we'll crack on. I won't be doing any of that sort of anything to do with like what you should buy and that, you know, which add-ons I prefer, and you subscribe and like only if you see fit. I can't be doing with all of that rubbish. Right, so let's get going. Here we go. I've edited this based on what I've said in previous videos, where I've just took away some of the detailing. I mean, I could literally select them now, and if I do a limited dissolve again, that should get rid of some of those points. As you can see, it has. So, you know, things like that. Do the same again. Limited dissolve. There are no points on there because they're all messy underneath. Right, and I'm going to be nicking some of these pieces, or we could probably steal these actually. Do a limited dissolve there. Yeah, that's still not got rid of the points. So with these, I'll just click, Control click, Shift click, O, which is my shortcut for merge at last. If assuming you've seen my other videos, you know. There we go. I'm just basically tidying this up. Oh, I thought I'd done that one. Hit the wrong button there, never mind. Oh, go away. What can happen when you're sort of selecting things is, depending on where you are, you might not select what you think you are going to do. Like when you're selecting an edge, you don't have to be right on the edge, but you have to be close to it. So, and then Blender will take a sort of best guess based on how close you are as to what you actually want. So like in here, for example, you know, it would be very difficult to choose those manually. Even if I go up orthographic and zoom in, you're going to have to zoom in quite a way, and even with those two there, they're still that close that it could be an issue. So things like that, that's just hard work. Right, so first things first, I'm going to build the log. So Shift A, add in a cylinder, go to the things, make it 6 sides. You know how this is going to go down. I'm going to go RY90. Now I know roughly how big I want that to be based on how often I've done this already. So I know, for example, well, first of all we want to apply rotation and scale. So Z, I want that to be 0.32. Y, I want it to be 0.31. And we'll make that 7.75 to start with, roughly. In fact, now I'm just going to drag that out a bit here, rather than actually scaling in the viewport. As I say in Blender, there's always more than one way to do. What I'm actually going to do is make it a bit bigger than I want, and the reason for that is when I'm going to be doing booleans, putting these panels in and things like that, it's going to give me a bit of leeway as to how I line them up, and then I can manually adjust them without cutting off the edges, and then I can move the edges back afterwards. You don't necessarily have to get it spot on first time round, you just want to get it in the ballpark, as it were. So as you can see, that's more or less what I'm after. So as usual, apply scale before I do anything else with that. Okay, so I'm going to go GZ, I'm going to move it down to there, and then I'm going to add my array. Don't want it on the X, I want it on the Z. I want to merge so it joins points, and then we're just going to go up 9. That's fine and dandy. Okay, I'm going to Shift S, set the origin to cursor. So I've got snapping pies active, which again, if you sort of watch the other videos, you know that I use that all the time. Link in the description. And now we've got that, I'm going to add in our mirror modifier, which is going to be on the y-axis. Bada bing, bada bong, that's done. Okay, switch to 3D cursor pivot. Shift D to duplicate RZ90. Right. I'm going to turn off the viewport visibility so I know where I'm actually going. Because sometimes when they're on you think, oh, which is the main one? So if you like our GX, it's not really telling me anything. And actually I don't want to do that in edit mode, or rather I do want to do that in edit mode. So that immediately shows you where it is on our GX now. There we go. And that's fine. And do it in edit mode so that the mirror works correctly, and that saves me actually moving it in object. In fact, if I undo that, I'll show you the alternative is to move that in object mode and then set the origin back to cursor. So doing it in edit mode just takes away that need for that step. And I think we can drop the array on that by 1. Or do we want it? Do we still want? Yeah, we want 1 because we need to move this up now. So G is Z 0.16 because we know 0.16 is half of 0.32. And yeah, I'm going to go with that and have done with that. Right, I can probably scale that a bit on the Y. It doesn't need to stick out quite that much. There'll do. And I'm going to get Control A. Rotation and scale. That screws up the thingy, but that's fine. That screws up the mirror, so I just change that to an X. And that's okay. So we're everything where we need to be for there. Quick save, because reasons. So hide the object. So now I'm going to apply these. You can apply them there, or you can Control A, Visual Geometry to Mesh does the same thing. So go in, A, MB should do nothing because we had merge on the array, but we still need to go in and select by trait, interior faces, delete faces. Do the same, Alt A, select by trait, interior faces, delete the faces. Right. Save before we do the boolean. Bool tool is active, so Control plus. Looking good. Seems to be all fine. Okay, in which case I'm going to straight away apply that. Select that and delete it. We now just got the one mesh. Now I will do merge by distance. You can see 96 removed. Right. Okay. So Control R to add a loop cut, and you can see it's not gone all the way around. It's only done it on one side. Now why is that? That's very easy to answer. All of these will be quads because they're cut perfectly. This isn't. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back out of perspective and I'm just going to zoom in on that. Shift click, press J, go into pivot, active element. So now that is the active element on a scale x0, and it gives me a nice tidy cut. I mean, you could do it by going into edge mode, select that, GX, and then snap into there. That just takes more time. So do something similar here. Select that and select that. Press J. Now scale Y 0. Oh, no, scale X. Sorry, scale X 0. It's just quicker. Shift click J, scale x0. You don't see the x pop up there for some reason when you're constraining axes on an edit thing. It doesn't show up in the shortcut keys, so you'll hear me repeating that over and over. So now we're going to symmetrize. So we're looking at this, we want to symmetrize minus x to plus x. So select everything, otherwise it won't symmetrize a thing. Mesh, symmetrize, minus x to plus x. And you can tell it's worked, because that's now got that. Again, select everything, mesh, symmetrize, and now we want minus y to plus y. Now each corner is done, and it's also given us the added benefit of having a nice loop cut down each of these walls, which I need. So I'll go into edge mode. I'm going to select them, and I do this for Boolean reasons, so that if I cut these polygons here, it's not having to factor in all of this here, which can maybe take a bit longer, or it can produce spurious results because it gets itself confused. So I like to give it a bit of clean work to work with Booleans, and I can just Alt click that, Alt Shift click that, and Control B, and just pull them out to there. And that also means now if I do a Control R here, it will go all the way around, because we've got nice quads going on like that. So save that again before I go any further, because paranoia is good when you're modelling. Speaking of saving, there is an add-on called Power Save, which is useful to have, and I believe it's free. I think it's free. Pretty sure it's free, he says. Right, Power Save, here we go. So go to GitHub, Blender Market you will have to pay, but go here, code, download the zip, new Power Save main, and just have a quick look at that, see if that is yeah, that's a full add-on, so you can just install that. So if I do Control-Alt-U, install, I go to Blender, modified, it should be down here. He says, oh, it's in the binaries, I remember now. Boop, boop. Power Save, install it, has a thunk, activate it, and save your preferences. Now that means I can just hit that button. Now if it's never been saved before, it will just automatically save it. So if I just go save as, and you see it'll default. So if I hit that again, it'll create an instance of it. So you can either just Control S and save, but with this, you hit that, and every time you hit that, it will increment it. So you can build yourself a section of stages of your work, and you can always pick one up then and go back to a previous point. It's free, so use it. It's really useful. I have it on as part of my normal config. Or you can go on Blender Market and well, it says it is free, but my understanding was Blender Market does expect you to pay something for it, like $1. But support it if you can. Basically, it's a good add-on, and it's worth having when you're modelling. It can save you cursing when you lose hours of work. Anyway, side advert for another add-on, but hey ho. Right, so anyway, they're done. Right, next thing we're going to do is the doors and the windows. Now, the way I tackle this, I'll do doors, windows, panels. Actually, I'll do panels for I'll do panels last. I'll do windows. Hang on a minute, I'm trying to think what's the best way of doing this. I'll do doors and windows. I'll do the cutout for the door and the windows. Then I'll put the panels in. Then I'll build the actual door and put that in. How you sort of go about this can have an impact on sort of what the booleans do, basically. So I thought I'd done these, so I'll quickly turn these. Here we go. So I'm going to select these, and I'm just going to select. I'm just going to take these bits, because I'm going to use them at some point, so I might as well I'll just have them. So shift duplicate and separate that by selection. Panels. Right. So I'm just going to select that, and that. Oh, not that. That. Shift DP, separate by selection. That's a panel. So okay. Shift S8, origin to geometry. F2, panel. Shift S8, origin to geometry. Door bits. Right. Okay, I can hide Ritten House now. Now the reason I've done that is because I can select that now and just move it, and it gives me a goalpost to work with visually without cutting into the mesh. So right, Control 1 because it's on the back side. Okie dokie. Right. And in fact, let's give this main logging. So again, it makes more sense. Yeah, name parts when you do things like that, because if they all say Ritten House .0 1 2 3 4 5 6, it's not really much use. So okay, so what I'm going to do is shift A, cube blocker, and I'm going to do a corner cube, and I'm just going to use this as a reference, and I'm making sure I'm clicking within the frame, just so, and then I'll just G, move that to the scale Z, scale X, just to get the size of the window. Not so bothered about the Y scale, and I don't really need to worry about, actually I will scale this, and GY, and I'm just going to cut into there like that. Right, now I need one on the same side, on the other side, so I'm going to add a mirror modifier to this, but I'm actually going to take that as the object. Right, so that's selected, shift click, control minus. Now as I've said before, bool tool will change the visibility to bounds. I prefer that to be wire, just so I can see what I'm actually playing with. Doesn't muddy the waters much. Right, so control 1. Now let's do the door. So I'm going to shift add a corner cube, same thing. I'm going to put it roughly there, so it's partly in the top, partly in the wall. I'm not bothered about it cutting into this, because I know that that door is, the final door is slanted, and we'll deal with that with the actual frame, not with the cutout. And again, that's just control minus. And I could select that and also scale Z to make sure it cuts through fully. Right, so, and it also means when I'm hiding bits, I know what I'm hiding when I rename them correctly. I can call that door cutter. Call that window cutter. Window cut. Whatever, window cut. So, they're fine. Now, with this, what I just want that enough in that it cuts cleanly, but not too much in that it goes too deep. I'm happy with that. I'm going to go into edit mode for the cutter, Control R, return, return, Control R, return, return, just so it cuts them. Or if I undo that, what I can do is just apply that again, Control A, Visual Merge to Mesh. I could actually now just delete those if I wanted. Go into edit mode, select everything, merge by distance, nothing removed. Now I'm only going to do one side because I know I'm going to symmetrize it. Just right mouse button, subdivide. The advantage of doing it this way is your object is now already selected. I in. So for insert, E to extrude back a bit. I to select individual face insert. E to extrude back. Click E to extrude back. Click. Right, so face mode. Select them, scales are 0.6. Face mode, click, shift click, shift click, shift click, scale X 0.6. Jobs are good. Select everything, mesh, symmetrize. You want X plus to X minus. And there we are. There's the windows done. Doop. Okay, panel. So let's have a look at that panel. Hide the main logging. Zoom in on it. Same thing, we just want to build a box roughly of this size. So Shift A. I say you always use pretty much the same functions all the time. Like that. That'll do. And that's close enough for rock and roll. GY, and just going to move that out to there. Scale it on the Y. GZ. I mean, that doesn't have to be exact because, you know, we're not trying to perfectly duplicate that. Okay, hide the panel, put the main login back in. And that's what we're dealing with. Now this is where the extra space here comes into play. Is I want to have enough room so that if I move that back in, it'll cut through, not too far as to cut into here. I don't want to see that visible at all, but it will give me room to play in terms of cutting through the geometry and then pushing things back. I'm going to call that good, and I'm just going to scale that. Control A scale. Right, now I'll do a Control R, Control B, and I'm going to just bring it out somewhere nice like that. Maybe scale it in a tad. And Control R the other way to get the top bit. I'm going to call that good. Right. I'm going to hide that, and then I'm going to do select link flat faces because it's quicker than manually selecting it. And just extrude that out to about there. Unhide everything. Control R. 1 for point mode. Click, shift click, merge at last, which is O for me. Click, shift click, merge at last. There's my panel. And I'm actually gonna do a click Alt just to keep it tidy. Right, now these I want to be select link flat faces. I want to be exactly in line with here for cutting it. So GZ and snap there, so that there's a clean cut going through. So that's that done. And again, I'm going to Shift S, origin to cursor, add a mirror on the Y-axis. Why haven't you gone? Where have you gone? Why aren't you working? Control A. Apply rotation and scale. I'd rotated it. Try x-axis. There we go. Sorted. When you get strange things like that, it's usually something you've done where you've not, because it was rotated, it wasn't honouring the axis I thought it was at. Now, I want to do the other panels, and the way I would do that is very simple. Shift D, RZ90, like that. And then, again, go into edit mode, select everything. G, Y. This is handy because I can actually see how far back in I'm going here. That'd be about right. Now this needs to go further down in terms of this, but I'm going to leave it there because the reason I'm going to leave it there is the base is going to come in and it's going to cut that bottom half off, so we're going to lose that lower half of that log anyway. Right, so that's nicely lined up. So GX, because I want it to cut in there. Then I'm going to edit mode. Now I can either do Alt Z so it's see-through, or I can do Shift Z to make it wireframe. Alt Z's good enough. One for thing. B, click the middle mouse button, get rid of them. GX, pull that across like that. And that's done. Here we go. So don't worry about this, I'm going to deal with that later, but everything else is as it should be. Okay, again save. And normally I'll always save before a boolean. Now you can see here I'm not far enough out. I need to be away so that those points don't stick in. So it needs to be about there really. And then I can move those faces back later on. So yeah, we'll call that good. Now we'll save. Right, now we're ready to perform the booleans again. So click that, shift click that, control plus. And that looks to have taken. I should have named that, but never mind. This, what I'm actually going to do before I do this is I'm going to apply the mirror. And the reason is, I know this has panel in either side. So what I'm going to do is going to do a control R there, control B, and I'm going to pull that out to about yay. Bit further than it needs to be, because then I can push it in afterwards. Like that. So, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into face mode. I'm going to select those three faces and delete the faces. I'm going to select that edge, went into edge mode there. EZ, hold tone, do that. A and B, got rid of two vertices, select that edge and edge, F. Select that edge and edge, F. And the reason for that is I need to cut this out. And this is where not getting rid of the door cutter comes in handy. I could select that, do control minus, and apply all. A, merge B, all good. So hide the door cutter. So even if you think you're done with the door cutter, don't just delete it. I mean, what you can do, if I take like that and the window cutter, I can select the door cutter and I control click the window cutter, move, new collection, cutters, I use cutters because that's what thing is. That's created a new collection which I can hide from both rendering. That basically makes it invisible in rendering and in the viewport. So there we are. It's nice and clean. Okay. So far so good. Right. Go in there, A and B, no vertices. Happy days. Right. Call that side panel. Joiner. M to move that, stick it in cutters. Control plus. Call that front panel joiner. Move it to cutters. So we're not getting too confused. And what I can do, I can open up those bits and I can move them to a new panel, bitser. So I know they're just bits I'm working with. And then again I can hide them without worrying too much about what's going on. So, we good. Apply all. Go in A, merge B. Right, now you can see here we've got a lot of polygons which would cause havoc for the 3D printing. There's a couple of ways of dealing with this. An easy, sort of cheap way, if you like, is I can select those two faces. No, actually what I can do is I can pull up the cutters and select the door cut. I'm going to select it. Control 1. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to GZ a tiny amount. I'll actually go into wireframe for this. There we are, just like that. I'm going to GX like that. I'm going to scale X. Hold the shift key. Okay. And I'm going to do control minus. Hide the cutters again. Apply all. And you can see now I've got one very nice tidy polygon, and if I wanted to clean that up I can just do that. J. Now let's have a quick look with the 3D toolkit before we go any further and see. Right, we've got some issues already. So let's have a quick look at that, and let's select the non-manifold edges. Go into wireframe mode. And we've got a few oddities going on. Right, why is that? We wonder. Well, you can see here you've got strange points. What I'm going to do is select them too. Yeah, got more than 1 point there. Is that the same here? Probably. Now if I do a check all, yeah, that's got rid of some of them. So it's the same on this. And a lot of this, it just basically you've got overlapping edges, so where I can I'll try to pull points together. And select them, I'm going to join them as well. I'm just looking for what I would consider obvious areas where there's strangeness going on, and like that I'm going to take that point, I'm going to take that point. Interesting, we've got multiple points there as well. Merge them, so I'm going to got that point, click that point, J. So now I've got a nice clean cut through there. Let's do a check all now. Still got issues with those edges for some reason. Okay, wireframe mode, point mode, what's going on here? multiple points you can't. Okay, now check all. There you are, you see. I can get rid of that edge as well. So it's things like this you've got to look for when you're doing sort of tidying up geometry. Okay, non-manifold edges. Speak to me. That must be the same situation. Yeah, there is. Actually, if I come here and zoom in on that, yeah, there you see you've got two edges. So do it all there. And I'm going to join them two up as well. That would suggest the same is going to be occurring on this side. Zoom in. Yeah, sure enough. I'm going to select those two edges and join them up. Now let's check all. And we're down to 7. These will be similar things where you've got, well, you can see there, you've got an edge there, or a termination point there, so it's usually just a case of tidying things up. So if I do a J there, oh, doesn't like that. Does not like that, so let's try this. Oh. Now check all. Yeah, we're down to 3. Okay, this is a similar thing. So what I'm actually going to do this time is select that edge, turn on auto merge, GG, pull it in. And I'm probably going to do the same here as well. When I can select the edge, GG. Always remember to turn that off because you can get yourself in trouble. And that bit's gone. Right, now we've got intersecting faces. And that basically again is a similar sort of thing where it's got points it's not happy with. And we'll do that. Check all. See, it can be that simple. So 1. What it usually means is it has trouble figuring out where the cuts are. J. So I'm going to go over here, select 1 and just press I to zoom in on it. So we just have a look and see if there's anything obvious here that we can spot. And I'm not seeing it, so let's check all again. Okay, we're still down to oddities here. What's going on? Point mode. Ah, there. Couldn't spot it because they were that close. In situations like this, I'll go to circle mode and I'll just click on what appears to be one point, just to see if it is 1 point. It could be 2 very close together. Look down there. If I see 1, I know it's okay. If I see 2, I'll tend to do a merge at last or merge at center. Check again. We're down to 34. So it's just a case of going through all of these things. Again, you can see here straight away there's some very similar issues going on. Join that up. Right. I'm going to join them. I'm going to join them. I'm just giving it nice termination points, basically. That's all this is about. There, because it's struggling. It doesn't like the way these two intersect, where you've got a point partway along an edge. I would imagine that number to drop now. Sure enough. Notice how it dropped by a full 10 there. So, same sort of thing here, and straight away you can see it. So, look at the other end, do a quick check, and we're down to 20. And these are all going to be the same sort of thing. They just are. They always are. Now, what I do here, do a Control R, GG, move it along. Then I'm going to do 1, join, check now. That's actually got rid of them, but it's created a point elsewhere, which I'm going to guess is around the bottom or something. Yeah. Okay. So let's see if I'm going to get rid of that edge. See what that does. See, that worked. Sometimes it's not about adding geometry, sometimes it's about taking it away. It's trial and error. Doesn't work every time, and you might have to back up and start afresh. Now you see I'm seeing that there as an issue straight away. So, right, now let's do a check. We're down to 16. We're getting there, we're getting there, we're getting there. So, what I might do in this case then is I'll select that edge, 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 and I'm just going to subdivide them, which will put a cut in. Select that point, GG, to pull it along, and then select those two and join. Check now, we're down to 14, still got an issue with those faces, there it is, you can see it straight away. Really handy, this toolkit thing. We're down to 12. And again, this is all going to be the same sort of thing. So what you can do is you can just knife it if you want. Still got issues. No, obviously with symmetrical things like this where you've been using mirror, the chances are if something's wrong on one side, it's wrong on the other side. And we got rid of the zero face. We've got 0 faces. What have we got here? What's going on there? Got two. Yeah, you've got the bad polygons. You can just about see there that there's a little dot that indicates it's actually a polygon, and that'll be a similar sort of thing again. So I'm going to merge that, and I'm going to go over to the side. I'm going to do the same thing because I'm going to resume. Yeah, that sorted that. Right, we've got 0 edge there. And again, that's the same sort of thing. It's just not quite right. Now what I would do there, basically I'm going to select that edge. I'm going to GX and I'm going to snap it up there. MB. There we go. Still there. Right, let's see if we can figure out what's going on here. That's made matters worse, so we undo that. Let's try cutting it. No, that won't cut, so it's definitely an error. Hide that face, hide that face. I'm going to go into edge mode. I'm going to delete that edge. I'm going to delete that edge. And I'm just going to I'm going to EX face. I'm going to subdivide that edge. Face. Face. Try it now. Yeah, I'm not surprised that's a non-manifold edge now. It's not happy about something. Alright. And it's gone. There we go. So that's all nice and clean now. I'm not bothered about overhang faces because of course that's just an issue with how you're going to 3D print. So these things here now, sticking out too far. So Control Shift F, click, Control Shift F, and I'm actually just going to click these faces because they need to go back the same way, and I'm just going to move them back to where I want them to be, like that. So it's tidy, and I'd do the same thing here. Click, Control Shift F, Shift click that, GX, push it back to where I want it to be. And you can see that this is easier than trying to line up booleans and then move them out. So, oh, I do actually need all of these now, and I'm just going to move those back to about there, like that. Are we happy with that? Am I digging that? Yeah. Oh, that point, G, Y, snap it to there. There we go. All good. Right, so there's all the paneling done, there's all the things done. Let's do the door. And before that I'm actually going to have a quick pause because I was going to make myself a coffee. Okay, back. Just a large mug of coffee at my hand, and treated myself to a few cheese and chive maize snacks from the local garage. Made sure little doggies had her treats. So, hope you've took a break yourself. Let's get back at it. I say it's long this because I'm just going to keep going till it's done. End of. Okay, that's the guts, as you can see. That's the guts of said building. So, alright, back to the bits there. So we want the front door. As I said prior to this, myriad of ways of doing this. Again, I'm just going to use cube blocker on a corner cube, and just because it's easy enough to do. No, I'm not. As you can see, I didn't really pay much attention to what I was up to there. It just has to be a cube to start with. So I'm going to GZ. I'm just going to G first. And again, this doesn't really have to be this precise. I'm just winging it. Hold down each shift when you move in, gives you more control. Full stop. Yeah, I mean that's way too big, so scale that on the Y. But well, I'm saying it's too big. Factoring it's going to go through the building, that might not actually be too bad. I'm going to apply the scale on that. Okay, need the doors. Okie dokie, so Control R. Oh, edit mode's always a good idea. Control R. 1, Control 1. GG or GX, because it's square it wouldn't really make much difference. Control R, click drag. Just roughly eyeballing where I want it. And I'm going to put the front in this way. As I say, there's more than one way to skin a cat with Blender. And E, click. Right. And again, Shift S. No, actually, come out. Shift S, origin to cursor. So I can go back in. And if you're using Symmetrize a lot, I put it to Alt X because, again, Alt X when I'm using MeshMachine is what it is. So I can just do Alt X, X minus to X plus. That's not worked. Now why has that not worked? Because you clearly, the orientation of the item is wrong. So let's try y minus to y plus. There we go. So that tells you if I come into object mode, yep, look at that. Make sure you apply rotation at scale. GY, you want to position that, yay. Is that sticking through? It is not. So I'm going to go back into edit mode, select that, select link flat to GY, make sure it protrudes beyond there, because I'm joining it, I want a nice clean join. So click, control plus, hide the bits again. Job is, as they say, a good one. Right, so I'm going to apply that, move that to cutters. Happy days. Merge B. Now I'm wagering if I then go to 3D print and check all, yep, sure enough, it's throwing a sulk again. Now isn't that interesting that those things didn't pop up until I added this as a boolean? So it goes to show you at times maybe you just better leave in all of that until you've done all your booleans, and so that's exactly what I'm going to do, because otherwise I could spend ages fixing that, add another boolean, etc, etc, etc. Right, okay, we want us side panels, so we want these edges, so we select them, Shift D, return P, selection, select that, Shift S, origin to geometry. I'm going to go in and I'm going to do a limited dissolve. Why? Because that had an edge in the middle and now it doesn't. And I'm going to scale that on the Y axis. Oh, too close. Go here, scale on the Y. Scale Y, come on. And I'm just going to pull it into the E. It's just going to go up on the Z axis. Let's have a look at the house itself. GZ. That's roughly where I want it to be. Okay, scale Y 0 MB. And there is my gable end. Simple as. I'm going to scale that slightly on the X. So there's a little ridge there. And yes, you've guessed it. Object mode. Origin to cursor. Add a mirror. Bada bing, bada bong. And what we're going to do, yes, we're going to boolean it. But we're not going to do that just yet, because I want to put the roof beams on and make sure that they line up and make sure the gable cuts into the roof beams. Whereas if I boolean it now, I'm going to give myself a world of hurt, because this bit then would be very difficult to fix, whereas it's going to be a lot easier if I leave it like this for now. Slurp of coffee. Okay. Back to this guy. We want the roof bits now, so I'm going to hide. Okay, main logging, that's gable end. I'm going to hide that and that. Select this. Now I'm going to take my roof bits and my chimbley bits. Select them. Control plus. I'm going to go into wireframe. B. Box select them as one. Out of wireframe. C. And I'm going to middle mouse button click to hide these, so I'm only selecting them. Shift D, P, selection. Click that, chimney bit. Right, okay, roof bits. Okay, do. Shift D, P, selection, roof bits. Right, this, I'm going to select these faces. Shift D, return P, selection, roof beam, or rooftop beam. Just so I know what everything is. And now we're going to select the actual roof part. I'm going to go to C, 3 for face mode. I'm going to start me some painting. I'm not going to take those top bits because frankly they're a mess and we don't want them. I'm just going to rebuild those parts myself. So shift middle mouse button to hide them, shift DP, selection, roof panel, and I think that is all. We missed those door bits. We want those door bits. Shift D, P. Can't remember if I've already done them, but we'll just call it door bits 2. So we're done. We're good. I don't think we need anything. I'm not going to bother with selecting them because I'm going to manually make them. Right. Okay. Let's hide that. Let's just put the bits back in. Oh, we did select the door bits. Let's hide the door bits too. Yeah, in which case that can go there in material. Right. So that's something I need to do to the main bits. So I'm going to take all these and the chimney bit. I'm going to move them to bits. There we go. And then hide bits up. Show the main logging. Right, we need the door. Now that's going to be easy enough because, again, it's going to be a cube block, corner cube. We need it to cut in, so that's fine. Like that. And we just make it slightly big. There we go. GY, ding. Take it in. Alright. Now I'm not going to scale this, I'm just going to edit it. So GZ, I'm going to snap that to there. Going to add in a loop cut. Going to extrude that out. Like that. Control plus and GY, and that'll pull the top bit with it. Right. We down with that, I think. GY, I'm going to push that. In fact, oh, whoopsie. I'm just going to put that a bit further back. There we go. That's all good. Now what you could do here is you could push this a bit further down and then delete the edges and line. In fact, I'll show you that. If I just GZ that down a bit further, just make it so we can do a different type of tidy up. So I'm going to select that, Control plus, move that to cutters, apply all, go into edit mode, merge B. Right, now you see this is up here. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete that face, which would seem counterintuitive at first, but trust me on this. So I'm going to join those up, then I'm going to select those and join them. So what I really want to do is go click, shift click, come on, shift click, oh, click, shift click, oh. So now do that, and that's nice and clean, and there's none of those edges with having an exact boolean. How you do it is entirely up to you. You can either clean up those edges or go beyond further and clean up the edges the other way. Right, so that's the door done proper like now, and I think we'll have an increment of this now. Okay. Bitser. Okay, select the roof bits. I'm going into edit mode. I'm going to go into isolation mode, point mode. A, limited dissolve. That gets rid of any points we don't want. These are not required, so I'm going to select that and then just merge them to the last one. And you could select them and then Control X as well, but then you still got the one that you've still got to get rid of. So click, Control X. Oh, I missed one there. Click Control X, Control X, Control X. So there, these are much tidier now. Now these are at an angle. Don't want these at an angle. Want to set medium point, scale X0, straighten them back up. Scale X0, straighten them up. Because we can twist the beam once it's done. Right. Now, how do we do this? Well, we could do that, do a face, add in a loop cut. And then just GZ and eyeball it. It's more or less where we want it to be. Like that. We call that good, say. We happy? And then what you do is select that edge. Shift click that edge, Control X. There we go. And that gives you a nice sort of beam edge. And the other one, well, you can see this is, in fact I'm going to hide those so we can see what we're doing. And we need to get these to line up better than this. How do we do this? Well, it's dead easy. Okay. Click, right click, 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 return. Now I'm going to just move these points, but first I'm going to select that, GG, pull back, C, drag it up to there as close as we can get. Same thing, click, GG, back, C, front. GGC, see what I mean? It don't work. You've got a GG, pull back, then. I say see what I mean, but I never mentioned it. Basically, you can't just GG and try and go forward because it might pick the wrong movement. But if you start the movement, then press C. There we go. You can see. Whereas here it's just GG, so you're lining it up. Now I think in 3.2 if I hold control, yes, it will still snap. In prior versions of Blender it wouldn't. It'll still try to snap to that point even though you're doing an edge slide. In days of yore that wouldn't happen. So now I can just merge these points. And I'm only doing this because I want to do a solidify, and of course I want it to be one solid piece. Now this is missing its bevel at the top, so select those two, Control Shift B and roll. If I roll that off it could be a thing. Roll it right back to a chamfer and there we go. We happy. I'll hide everything. There we go. Now these need to be separated because if I did a solidify now, oh, actually they happen to be pointing the right way, so result. So let's just put that back in, come out of local mode, and let's just play with that. Yeah, I'm rocking with that. I was going to say that you'd end up that they might be not where they need to be, so you would separate them, but it turns out that one's worked well because the normals are pointing different ways. if I turn the viewport visibility off and I show face orientation, which even though it doesn't show it there, you can right mouse button and assign a shortcut, and I've given it Alt F, so I can just toggle. Red says it's pointing the wrong way, or it's pointing in. Blue is pointing out. Now I actually changed that on my interface in themes, 3D viewport, face orientation back and front. I can actually dial that right back and it'll just show, if I take it to alpha, it'll just show the face. I personally like a slight tint of blue to know what's going on. And the red, again, is just dialed back from a pure red. So I can just see, yeah, that's wrong, and then I can just turn it back off again. So, just something that's really useful when you think, especially when you're getting odd results. Quick sidetrack. If we take a cube, say, we come in here, and I'm just going to inset one face for now, like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, I think it's face, no, mesh, normals, flip. That looks fine, doesn't it? Looks perfectly good. Watch what happens when I add a bevel modifier. Ooh! What happened there? Well, that face is the wrong way around, and if I show normals you can. And so it thinks it's pointing the opposite way, and so it's inverted it. That's a handy feature if you want to actually cut in a countersink, by the way. I'm going to show you that. I know this is a quick sidetrack, but what the hell, eh? Everything's knowledge, isn't it? So go in there, select everything, Shift N, bada bing, bada bong. Okay, let's just quickly add a cylinder, and we'll give it 32 as it should be. Scale, GZ, like that. All good. Right, and I select that and doing Control minus, I get the hole. However, if I go here, 3, select that face, do mesh, normals, flip, and Control bevel, hey presto, you get a thing. Now if I just select it and do Shift N, select everything, Shift N, no, select that face, Alt N flip. Oh, I've got this wrong. Let's go back a few more steps. Right, okay, if I can bevel that, oh, I've already flipped it. Mesh, normals, flip. You see, that's actually shrinking it. That's not what you want, but I go mesh, normals, flip, Control bevel it. So just there you go. Scale Shift Z. You got yourself a nice thing. Quick aside, but hey ho, there you are. Consider it an ancillary modelling hint. Okie doke. So there's our roof beams. Okay, we want the roof bits. I'm gonna call that roof beams. I'm gonna move that back into the scene collection. Okay. Rooftop beam, again go in A, I'm just going to go E, Z, drag it down, wireframe so I can see what I'm doing, 5, 3 so I can see there, I'm going to scale Y, make it nice and chunky on the outside, like that. Going to add a loop up there, I'm going to scale that on the Y. so it gives our roof beam something nice to play with. Origin to geometry, yes, I'm going to move that to the scene collection. Rooftop beam. Alright, I can hide the main house, I'm not interested in that. Okay, let's look at these here gable ends. And as you can see, like I said, they don't deal with the roof beam correctly. What to do, what to do. Right, what I'm going to do actually is I am going to go into edit mode. I'm going to K to knife. I'm going to do A to constrain it to an angle. And then I'm going to do C to cut through. I'm going to click here and I'm going to drag all the way over to here and click. Hit return. And nothing's happened. How very annoying. Okay, so 3 Shift Z 1. What I'm going to do, go into point mode, B select, GZ. Move them up, easy. Move them down. Like that. Got them where I want them. I'm going to B, middle mouse button, deselect them, scale on the Y, bring them in. And now we're talking. Now I'll happily boolean those because I know that they're not too bad. However, yeah, I do need to address these roof beams. Deselect everything, select that. G on the X. I just need to pull that in a bit to make sure that both sides are covered. Like that. Yeah, I'm happier with that. Now actually I'm going to invert that and do the same, line that up with those. Like that. And declare myself happier with that, and then I'll feel safe on it. Now I think I am safe now to think about these edge pieces before I start booleaning the roof in and that. So before we go any further, let's take this, and what we're going to do with this, well, what we're going to do is we're going to merge those at center so it can see that it's M followed by an A. So MA. Click shift click and I can do shift R to repeat the last action. Now providing all I'm doing is click shift click, I can do this just using shift R all the time. If I do something else, then I'll have to go back. Right, so we're all good with that. I'm going to select them, J for join, 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 yada 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 yada. We is happy. Alright, now I'm going to go into knife mode, click, drag, click, right mouse button, click, drag, click, right mouse button, click, 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 click, right mouse button. You know. Return. Right, there we are, all triangles. Super duper. Right, edge mode 2, control click. Now I don't want to go on the X, so E and just return. Then G, shift X. And I can just line that up roughly with that, and then I just select those faces and control T if you want to. Do control EC for spinning the edge, shift R, shift R, actually shift R, Okie dokie. Now okay, let's stick in the old solidify. 3 again. We can see how thick the roof is, and that is way too thick. I'm going to go into... oh, actually it wasn't. I want it thick enough because I need to do some cuts into it, but I don't want it too thick as to be a ridiculous depth for a roof panel. What are we saying? Are we saying we're happy with that? I'm going to R on the Y, X. Actually, I'm going to make the origin to geometry in RX, just to get that angle a bit closer. GZ, pull it down a smidge, because my model isn't exactly the same as the other one. Right, I'm just going to isolate them now to make sure that that cut doesn't go too far down. And I need to select these faces. Control click 3, and I'm just going to GZ. I'm going to pull them down a smidge and then scale them on the Y a smidge, and I think I'm happier with that. And 3, yeah, that's alright, that's cutting in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to apply that, then I'm going to select the Shift Z mode. I'm going to select the lower edges, so click, control click, and I'm just going to pull them down a bit so that they're not overlaying the middle of the thing for when I do a mirror, which I'm about to do. But before I do that, yeah, you guessed it, origin to cursor, add a modifier, added a mirror on the y-axis. Oh, well, that's interesting. That suggests... no, that should have worked. Why aren't you working? Control A, rotation and scale. That's better. My rotation and scale was off. I'm going to see that's... I'm going to go into edit mode. Oh. Alright, what have I done here? Again, same thing. Come here. Oh, have I gone in? What am I doing? Got myself in a right tiz here. Hold on. Let's go into edit mode. Click. Control click. 3. And I'm just going to move that a bit more. That's better. Alt hide. Of course, roof panel. Move that out to the main station. Now I can hide bits and hide the main logging and hide the roof beams and hide the gable end. There we go. That's better. How are we looking? Wireframe 3. Yeah, we're happy with that. It intersects, but doesn't get too much, and I'm going to select that. I'm going to select that face. Just a GX. Make sure it sticks out. Needs to stick out. Right. There we go. Okay, roof beams. I'm going going to select them. I'm just going to scale them on the X ever so slightly so they cut in. Right, now make sure that roof beam intersects nicely with the edges, which it does, and it doesn't cut down into here, which it doesn't. I'm looking for issues here which may be a problem when we boolean. I want it to be as nice a boolean as I can possibly get, and I'm going to call myself happy with that, to be perfectly honest. So gable end main logging. So here we go. Okay, let's tackle this main logging, shall we? I'm going to select that, and I'm going to Shift G coplanar, and I'm going to have a quick slip of coffee before it goes freezing cold. And it's not far off cold. Anyway, right. So GX, I'm going to push them back to where I want them to be. Like that. Okie dokie. Do the same on those. Select Shift G coplanar, GX, pull them back. Thus. Alright. GY, pull them back. And now you can see why I wasn't worried about that roof intersecting and never mentioned it, because I knew I was going to be pulling these back out of the way, so it wouldn't be an issue making a mess there. Right, now I said about adding some variation here, so basically all you're just going to do is just select some edges, some faces. Basically I'm just selecting alternate ones. What you could do, you can just select coplanar and then choose select, check a deselect, but that'll only do it on the one side, so you'd have to just shift click the others to unhide them. And actually I want to unhide alternates, I don't want them being the same, so I'm going to just pull them out a bit. There we go. Or you can just choose multiple, just click, shift click, shift click. Like that, you know, just do whatever you like. If you want to do any at all. It's just adding a bit of variation to the logs, that's all. Breaks your eye up. Doesn't have to be much, just has to be some. And if we come out of that, then that looks a little more naturalistic, does it not? Because it's not identically lined up. I said about these, by the way, we'll pick this, go into isolation mode. What I'm going to do, I'm going to add a loop cut there. If it doesn't loop cut, what you can do is you can go into top view, and again you can cut through it with the knife tool. So I could just do K, C to cut through, A for angle, K, A for angle, C to cut through, and I'm going backwards and forwards to make sure I get everything. Then what I can do is go into wireframe, point mode, and just select these points here, like that. Make sure you're selecting all the ones you want, so it might be better in solid mode so you can see. So like we're taking them, and I'm going to take these two, then go back into solid mode, and I can just GZ. And actually, we want those two as well, so I'm going to take those two. So you've got a kink there now in that. So that's how you do your kinks. Add them where and if you want, basically. Okay. And if you think that kink's not gone far enough, well, the easy answer is just to take this here and Control X it. And the same there. It's like that. Control X. Now the kinks are much more subtle over a longer length. So, okie dokie. Back out of perspective, back out of local mode. Right, we want to be adding the roof beams. Now, looking at this, I'm thinking those side beams there are too high. So I'm going to go into isolation mode again, and I'm thinking, how am I going to deal with this? The easy way is I'm actually going to take these edges, these faces rather, and I'm going to delete the vertices. Right. Then, two faces, two edges, press F. Oh, by the way, add-ons, F2. I've got that enabled, which makes adding faces really easy. There we go. Just so you know. Neglected to mention that, so F. Select my edge. See if it does what I want it to do. It does. I'm going to zoom in onto it. Let's see if it does that. And it does. So, happy man. So do the same on this. There we go. Out of local mode. That's better. Because I want to be able to see the roof beam, you see. And if they're in, I can't. But what I can always do there now is I can just push them up slightly if I want to. So if I then take those faces, I'm going to select that, click, Control click, zoom in, Shift click, Control click, and I can just E and just move those up a tiny bit. Go into individual orients and just scale on the Y ever so slightly. And how are we seeing that? Yeah, digging that. I'm digging that. Now we've got an issue here with that, but that's alright. I'm going to select that edge. I'm going to scale that on the Y. And this is why I'm leaving this to the last minute. I want to make sure that I've got all my roof things done the way I want them before I actually dig in and apply the booleans. And yeah, that one's okay. This one seems alright actually. Oh no, it isn't. Oh, of course. It isn't. I'll keep forgetting this is a mirror, so I have to factor that in. So I still need to address that up a bit for this. What about that? GZ, I'm going to move that up. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to scale that Y. I'll take that down a bit. Scale it on the Y even more. Yeah, okay, I'm going to go with that, I think. I'm happy with that for my roof. Okay, so there's only 2 steps to go now, apart from the chimney, which is, that won't take long. Basically add in the roof beams, so roof beams, chimney, and then base, and then you're done, and everybody thank God for that. Right, okay, so I'll tell you what, let's just do the chimney first, shall we? Because we've got the starter there. Going to isolate that. Oh, well, we don't need all of this, do we? So I'm going to select those, do a J3, delete that face. Right, okay. I'm going to EZ, snap. EZ, snap. EZ, snap. GY, snap. Same thing there. EZ, snap. Z, GY, snap. Then I'm just going to merge those points. Merge those points. There we go. And then we're just going to take those 2 edges, going to merge the face. Not bothered about that just yet. Don't worry about that. That's alright, I'm just going to take those 2 points, GX, and snap them there. There we go. And those 2, face, face, face. Right, there's our chimney. And if you want, you can GX that out a bit. Don't think it needs it, to be honest. You're just going to cut that in. So that's, we can origin to geometry on that and move that out into the scene collection. Come out. There we go. Now obviously that goes down to the base, so you sort of know where your base is going to be from that. So that suggests that the chimney would be the last thing to go in, because there's no point putting it in before you put the base in. Okay, so we're going to put the roof in now. So we want the beams. Now there's multiple ways of doing this. You can cut the beams in to here using a knife by adding a beam like that. Rotate that, get it in so it cuts in. I want to scale that on the X because it's a beam like that. Anything right, I'm gonna go into edit mode, select that face, pull it out a bit. And come out of local mode, GX, and then you could start scale Z, cutting these in, G, Y, Y. Move it up a bit. Doesn't need to come that far out, say. And then just add those along. And these would, so Shift X. And I'm going to put the two outer ones first. Shift X. I'm just going to roughly line up where I want them. I mean, you could line them up based on the position of the other beams if you wanted. It's entirely up to you. Like that. I'm going to call that. Right. Now I can look at these and see if they all cut in. And they don't. So G, Z, Z. Scale Z, Z. G, Z, Z. I just want them to cut in. Scale Z, Z. Ever so slightly, and I want to make sure they make contact with the building, for the simple reason that wouldn't be much of a roof beam if it didn't actually make contact with the building it was supposed to be supporting, would it? That's alright. Digging that one. There we go. So now there's a couple of ways we could do this. We can either cut them in, which would sort of is redundant to me because you're making the pieces, setting to the side, cutting them in, then extruding them. So what I would do is I would select all of these. Now I've got them where I want them. Join them as one piece. I'm going to call them beam cut. I'm going to select that. We've still got the mirror modifier on. In fact, if we turn that off, that tells me they're immediately on the wrong side. So I have to deal with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that. I'm going to set my cursor to the origin. And I am going to scale Y minus 1. Oh, hold on. Apply rotation to scale. Scale Y minus 1. Now I've done that. Problem with that is they're now the wrong way round. Oh no, they're the right way round. Go fish. Ah no, because I've not applied the scale. If I apply the scale, they're now the wrong way round. So select everything, Shift N. They're now the right way round. But we're getting some intersection here, and we don't want that. So I'm going to Shift select them and hide everything else. Right, then I'm just going to go into edit mode. 3. And we're just going to go into face. In fact, I don't even need to do that. I can Alt Z. Edge mode. Alt Z. No, that's alright. GG, pull that down. Make sure it's not. Yeah, that's come too far now. Has it? Zoom in. Take it out of perspective. That's really messing matters up. And the answer is no, that's now okay. That's inside without being too much. GG. That's the same. Alright, I think no, we're still getting issues here. In fact, I'm going to go G, Y, Y, Z, Z, no, face, come on. why aren't you working? Ah, so I'm going to GZ, just pull it down. Right. Just to make sure I'm not going too deep. Doesn't really matter if they're ever so slightly different lengths. This is just to ensure that I'm not going too deep into here, so that when I boolean it, I'm ending up cutting into the roof upper section like that, but I am still cutting into the lower section. I'm going to call that good. And so what I'm going to do is select them, and I'm going to do Control Plus. And how do we like that? We like it. Right. So I'm going to move that above the boolean, above the mirror, and I'm going to apply it. And I'm going to move that to the cutters. And now I can turn the visibility back on. Go in, A, merge B. Alright. Here I've got the 0 faces. Why are you 0 faces? Alright. You know what? I'm going to select all of them, that and that. And I'm just going to join them there, because, well, really, it seems daft not to, because it was a bit of a mess. I know I said I wasn't going to do this sort of clean up before I'd finished, but meh, sue me. Okie dokie. Out of local mode. We all happy. Okay. Now, I'm going to start joining these guys up. So I'm going to take my gable ends and my roof beams, and I'm going to join them. Are they happy? They are happy. I'm going to move that to cutters. I'm going to apply that. Merge B. That's all good. Right. And I'm going to take that, and I'm going to join them. And is that happy? That looks happy. I'm going to merge that to cutters. Apply all. All good. Right. I'm going to take that and that. Control Plus. Is that happy? That is happy. Move to cutters. Apply all. All good. I just like to merge just in case. Right. Biggie. So it's a biggie, so I'm going to power save, because this one is where it could all go terribly wrong. Select them two. Control Plus. Oh, that looks promising. Move that to cutters. Right, oh, need to apply it. Alt F. It's looking good, it's looking good. Go into there, merge B. Yeah, it's been very good. It's being nice to me. I like it when my mesh is nice to me. Okay, home stretch, folks. Finally. And I'm not even going to bother with this. I'm just going to add mesh, and I'm just going to throw in a cube. GZ1. Right. Scale X. Wait a bit. About there. How does that look? Scale X. It needs to come out a bit more, because I want that there and that there. Looks maybe right. Scale Y. Get it roughly right. Scale Z. Like that. Right. going to get it to there for now, just so I can see scale Y. Oh yeah, I'm happy with that. Is the Z, the X scale right? I'm just going to move it on the X ever so slightly, because that doesn't look like it lines up so tidily. I know there's a gap there, but there was in the original house. But we're going to address that in a minute anyway. Now I'm going to call that good. I'm going to apply the scale on that, because I'm not quite finished here. What we want to do, as you may recall, these beams were twisted out like that. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to select that face, and I'm going to pull that out to there like that. And I'm going to select this face, and I'm going to GZ and snap it to there. GY, there we go, that's what we want. And I'm just going to manually move these to how I want them to be now. Just a little bit out from there like that, that'll be fine. Same there. We just want a little thing. Okay, I'm going to call that base cut. Save. Here we go. Control plus. Oh, it doesn't like it. It does not like it. Why does it not like it? Okay, well, we can try scaling on the Z ever so slightly. Oh, it really doesn't like that. It's as soon as we do that. Okay, let's turn it to a fast. Scale Z. Oh. That prefers fast versus exact. So it's always worth toggling those. So I'm going to move that to cutters, and I'm going to apply this and see what happens. Right, well, according to that it's happy. Okay, in which case, Control plus, fast, same thing. Move to cutters, apply all. There it is. If we zoom in, move around, and there we are. We got ourselves a house. Okay, final thing, let's go in, deselect it, do a check, and now we start to have to tackle our bad luck choices in life. Non-manifold edges are the first question. And there seems to be more than our fair share of them. I'm going to merge B, and I'm going to change that. I'm going to take that off. Shine now. Still just as many. Interesting. Why? There's something odd going on here, points-wise. I think I can see it. I'm going to select that and that. Oh. Yeah. So I'm going to go with the same thing here. Yep. We're getting some down, but not a lot. Let me just try. I'm going to select that. I'm going to select that. I'm going to select that and press J. Invalid order select. No, it doesn't like that. Right, that won't select, so that tells me the issue lies with this here. And I don't know why. I'm going to delete that face. I'm going to select those two edges. Face. Face. It's got rid of them, so I think this is an issue with these. Delete that face. Yeah. Same thing here. Okay, I'm going to delete these two faces. Yeah, we're getting down. Ready. Oh, well, they're not good, are they? So face there. Yeah. Right, so basically now, from now on in, you're just basically going in and trying to attack issues. So Shift Z, not Alt Z. Right. You're going to be looking for problem areas, and I can see some really all around here. So you're going to be going in and trying to fix these. I mean, it's worth pulling it into a slicer program and seeing if it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the 3D tool exporter. I'm going to give this a shot. And dump. Accept that, and I'm going to apply scale and export it. Right, then I am going to desktops, 3D programs. I'm going to go into Photon Workshop. And let's just see if it all works. Okay, the scale's all wrong. 8. Let's make that 400. Oh, 400, not 4,000. No one wants it 4,000. 34. Make it 600. 500. There you go. Auto fit. Okay. I have no idea what that does. I'm sure someone who actually uses the software will understand that. But all I know is if I pull it down, does it work? And it appears to. And does it appear to build correctly? Well, in my eyes, yes it does. So that might be good enough. And I'm going to end the video there because God knows it's gone on long enough, hasn't it, folks? So there you go, 2 hours. It's been a while. If you've made it this far, congrats. And I hope at least it's been of some information to you. And bye bye.